All right, so you have an idea of where you want to be in a few years. You picture yourself doing great things, yet you have that feeling that you can do better than you are doing right now. Well, I can tell you for a fact that we all face those issues. We all deal with those challenges that are involved when it comes to becoming the person you are meant to be. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I was reading that off my screen. And bro, when I usually film videos like these, I like to just wing it. I like to speak from experience, speak from what I know, and then sometimes do a bit of, research before. But with this specific video, I want to convey the right message the best way I can. So I did put down some points in hopes of doing this as efficient as possible. And maybe in the future with videos like this, this may be the way to go. But in case you're new here, my name is Prince. If you are a long-time subscriber, welcome back. And as you guys can tell by the title, today we are talking about something that I find to be very, I don't know if you guys get the gist, but very important, right? This is something that I've had to sit myself down about. This is something that I've thought about before. This is something that I've learned about, right? And so I've only recently been seeing a lot of progress by applying some of the things I've learned, and I just wanted to share it with you guys as well. So the thing with this issue is that it is not about one thing, right? It deals with a range of issues, right? Whether it be lack of confidence, procrastination, laziness, self-doubt. Those are a lot of things, right? And so it is not easy to pinpoint one thing. You cannot pinpoint one thing and attribute your lack of showing up for yourself to it, right? It has to do with a lot of things, but you can address all those things by changing a few things. And so first and foremost, I do want to say this to the person watching this. If you think as though that you do not deserve, right, the better things in life, if you feel as though that you do not deserve the good things in life, and that you feel as though that it's reserved for only a certain group of people because of what you're used to, I'd like to say congratulations, you're wrong. Okay, that is not the right setting or the right mindset, and the Bible tells us so. In the book of Psalms 23, the Bible tells us that God prepares a table before us in the presence of our enemies. He anoints our head with oil. There is a place for you at the table, but it is up to you to take upon that position, to take up that position, right? There is a seat for you, but you have to live up to it. And so it is wrong to think that it is only reserved, right, the good things in life, the place that you want to get to because of whatever you've been through, your circumstances, your upbringing, the lack of confidence, the way that you look, because of that you do not deserve a seat at the table. I'm telling you, if you do not sit at that table, right, it will just be an empty spot, and likely someone else will take it upon themselves because they are willing to make the sacrifices, the needful sacrifices. And so there has to be that change. Okay, so first you have to know that there is a place for you. To reaffirm this point, right, the Bible tells us in the book of Jeremiah 29, it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Hope and a future. There is a future for you. God speaks of prosperity and not to harm you, right? God has a place for you, right? But in your free will, you have to first, the most important, accept that. Because when you accept that reality, or when you accept it to be a reality and a possibility for yourself, that is when you feel allowed to even go after it. A lot of people disqualify themselves in taking up certain positions, going for certain things, because in their minds, they have disqualified themselves. They feel they do not belong there. That is wrong, okay? This past week, we also read a book that I think is very profound. It speaks about joy in itself, right? But it really stands on the power of thinking, right? So it emphasizes that what you think is eventually what you will get, right? And so we see, for example, with Job, right? What Job feared for the most, as the Bible says, what he feared for the most, that is what happened to him. I think it is only right for us to also address the issue of fear of prosperity, fear of success. A lot of people fear those things for some reason, right? I can understand. There's a lot of work that comes with wanting to do better, right? And that cripples people, right? So when you fear those things, you already have placed a limit to yourself. You see, the thing about the mind is when you train it in a certain way, it becomes more easier for it to walk in that direction. And so, for example, a person who deals with problem solving a lot, is much more quicker, right? To come up with solutions much quicker. And so that comes with thinking small. A lot of people think small, right? Because of their surrounding, because of how they grew up, because of the standard that is communicated to them, right? They think in that box. And so although they have strong aspirations, big goals, right? They limit themselves to what they're used to, right? Because maybe their friends are not walking that direction. You have to be bold enough to step out of that comfort, right? And that will come through changing your mentality. And so the Bible will even tell you, right, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. And we see a lot of examples. A great example is when the Israelites were sent to scout in the land of the Canaanites or the Philistines. They went scouting, right? And the Bible tells us that they thought of themselves as grasshoppers compared to them, because the people were much larger, right? They thought themselves to be grasshoppers. That is how they compared themselves to them, right? And as they thought, so they became. That is what the Bible states. And so they feared, they dreaded, right, going up against those people whilst they had God. And so that is the power of your thinking, right? I feel like there are so much things I can add to this, but I don't want to overcomplicate things, and I also do not want to drag this video out too long. I want to keep this as brief as possible, right? And so let's move on to the next point, which is my last point, but the most important point. If you do not take anything away from this video, please, this is what enlightened me or opened for me. I think this encapsulates everything that I'm talking about. The last point is act as you want to be, right? We've talked about first accepting that you have a place, secondly changing your mind and training your mind to stop limiting yourself, right? And now you have to walk in that. So it is only you who knows who you want to be, right? And you should not allow your outside circumstances to affect that. You really have to harness that and walk in that. You have to walk in, I don't know what I just did, but you have to walk in that image. You have to live it as the now. Now, I know this probably sounds very familiar to you, right? Like probably sounds like the whole new age ideology, the whole spirituality ideology and stuff like that. Well, the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, right? There are a lot of things that have happened before that a lot of people, have kind of taken and are reusing it, and they've made it their own thing, right? And so you will even find in the Bible this same thing I am saying as an example, right? When you look at Jacob and Esau, right? Let me read the passage of Jacob and Esau, which is in Genesis 27. Right? You see that Jacob, although factually was not the one who was to receive the blessing, because he acted like Esau, he received the blessing, right? And Jacob even doubted himself. The idea did not come from Jacob, right? He doubted himself. And his dad even recognized that he wasn't Esau. People will only see who you present yourself to be, right? And so without wasting any time, let us read the Genesis 27, right? I won't be reading the whole thing, so I really do recommend you go read the whole thing to grasp the whole story very well. But I will be starting from the verse 2, right? And so this is Isaac. At his old age, he told his son Esau, who is the firstborn, right? He said, I am now old. I'm now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Verse 4. This is important. He says, prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat, so that I may give you my blessing before I die. Here, the point I want to highlight, he said, prepare the kind of tasty food I like, right? There is a requirement that you have to meet. You have to present something likable. You cannot skip that part, right? So without, like, let's say, as I'm using social media, right? If you want to do content, if you do not make the video, there's no way people are going to see what you're presenting. If you do not learn for your exam, there's no way you're passing. There's no way you're getting to that place you want to go in your career. And so there is an importance on meeting a requirement. There is an importance of doing the work. You have to do the work. So Jacob had to go out, get the animal, and his mother will then prepare it, right? So in the verse 8 it says, now my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock, bring me 2 young goats so I can prepare some tasty food for your father just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat, so that he may give you the blessing before he dies. Now here's my point, right? Jacob said to his mother, but my brother Esau is hairy, while I have smooth skin. Well, what does this mean? He wasn't Esau, right? So in order for him to get the blessing, he had to become what? Esau, right? And so then he raises a few points. The doubts, the voices, the insecurities we have about ourselves, they will always be there, but you just only have to become that person now. It is not a thing where Jacob wasted time waiting for his hair to grow. No, he did what he could. Here is the encounter. Jacob went to his father, right? And he said, "My father." His father answered, "Yes, my son." And he answered, "Who is it?" And Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." So then in the verse 21, Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near me so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau." So after the requirements, there will come a testing, right? And then Jacob went close to his father, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob." As I said, Isaac knew it was Jacob because he heard it in the voice, but Jacob still received the blessing. Why? Because he presented himself as Esau. He passed the check as Esau. And then Isaac then said again, "Are you really my son Esau?" It will come to you where you will be questioned, right? And you will have to reaffirm yourself as the person you want to be. So Jacob then answered, "I am." And so this will be the case for every level you proceed in life. At every level, you will have to meet a certain requirement, and in that requirement there will come a testing, but you have to know where you are going and who you want to be and identify by that, right? And so even with myself, I've been making videos for 5 years now, and you guys can attest to the fact that when I started, obviously experience does plays a role. Things are much more different. The way I speak, the way I present myself has changed as well, right? But it only recently clicked to me that where I'm trying to go, with where I want to go, I have to act in that way. And so before, whilst I would create content the best way I could, because I was so small in my own eyes, I was so small in my own sight, and I did not identify as the great YouTuber that I wanted to be, the great content creator that I wanted to be. I operated in that way, the way that I spoke, my approach with making the videos and everything. And so again, I have learned to embody the person I want to be, not to hold it off because my current life situation, my current circumstance says or tells me otherwise. No, I still have to show up for myself because of where I want to go, right? And that, I think, reflects in the video. People see it, and that is why you have to act as who you want to be, right? And so people, I think I've said a whole bunch. Making videos with points and just stuff like that is not easy. When I'm making videos without points, like, I just kind of speak and flow, but with this I had to stick with what I wanted to say to not go off too much, and I still think I did a bit. But I do believe and hope that this video was helpful and that you have learned something. If you did take anything away from this video, do be sure to leave a like on this channel. It helps out the channel a lot more than you think. Also share this with someone. As I said already, the link to the new channel is in the description down below. Do be sure to check it out. Subscribe to that channel. I have a vlog ready that will be dropping sometime this week. And yeah, that being said, I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.